Round 6 Costa Mesa Regionals. That was definitely my second win. I'm Regina Ingley. Here's Kimo Nishimura.
What's up?
Super pumped. I personally am really excited for this match. We have Jackson Finch versus Brandon Meckley?
Looks like Meckley to
Meckley?
me.
Okay, cool. So Jackson Finch is actually a SoCal player. Does top cop pretty often at the regional. At the events that we have locally in LA. Brandon, second year playing, has top cut in Mexico City. So, you know, an area that has kind of like a growing VGC scene right now.
Oh, the Mexico City tournament is always huge.
So,
it's a ridiculous tournament. I think it's usually 9 rounds.
Oh, that's so cool.
It's crazy. It really is.
One of these days I'm going to have to get on over there. But we've got for you guys an exciting match. So on Jackson's side, we have Alola Persian, Tapu Fini, Volcarona, Tyranitar, Kartana, and Clefairy. And on Brandon's side, we have Charizard, Porygon 2, Landorus there, and Kartana, Alola Marowak, and Tapu Lele.
I mean, when I look at these team matchups, I see like the reoccurring theme that we've noticed throughout the day, and that's regarding how offenses sort of work in this metagame, and maybe in general. Jackson's team is undoubtedly a setup move kind of team. You have the Persian to create an extra turn. You have Volcarona and what is probably Mega Tyranitar, considering there's no other Mega options there, to use a boosting move to, you know, just power up, be able to sweep through a team, be able to use an offense to crush really fast. While from Brandon, we see the other side of the offensive spectrum where I don't need to set up. I'm just going to start right away, and I can use positioning normally to just kind of beat you out. Porygon 2 is very interesting on these kinds of teams.
Yeah, and so Brandon leading with Porygon 2 and Landorus, as Jackson leads with Kartana and Alola Persian. Ooh, and the Landorus Intimidate going into both Persian and that Kartana, going to be lowering them by 1 attack stage, as Porygon 2's download ups its special attack.
I think this is a lead position that really shows the strength of Porygon 2 in the current metagame. Porygon 2 really doesn't care generally about Persian. It can taunt, preventing a Trick Room setup, but especially thanks to the download boost, it can just throw out Ice Beams for pretty solid damage, especially against things like Kartana.
Okay. And Landorus switching out for Tapu Lele, going to hit the field here and going to get that Psychic Terrain up. You know, we've seen consistently over this this match, or sorry, over this tournament, how Tapu Lele's Psychic Terrain is really, really well used. And Alola Persian going for the foul play into the Lele slot that was that Landorus, as Kartana goes for the goes for the critical hit with the Leaf Blade into the Lele spot, picks up the knockout, and is going to be getting the Beast Boost into its attack.
Super unfortunate for Brandon. We do see the Trick Room. It's nice because Persian and Kartana are both fast. Doesn't show taunt, still possible. But, you know, maybe just didn't think that a Porygon 2 would go for a Trick Room in its face. Porygon 2 still looking in a fantastic position, even though Lele was lost, unfortunately, very early. Marowak, Pokemon coming out, loves being in Trick Room.
Alola Marowak, though, like, I think this is actually the first time that I've seen it.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I thought, like, I just haven't been paying a lot of attention, but I think Alola Marowak and Porygon 2, that kind of classic-ish combination from last season, as Alola Persian switches out for Tyranitar, going to get that sand going onto the field here because of that sand stream. And honestly, only Porygon going to be able to taking the residual damage, as Marowak flare blitzes into that to the previous slot that was Persian, does some good damage on there and gets recoil from that, as Porygon 2 goes for Ice Beam. Going to also connect into the previous Persian slot that is now Tyranitar. Kartana Sacred Sorting into the Porygon 2 slot, gets a little bit over half there still, but as the sand hits everyone, hits Brandon's side of the field.
I mean, that's a turn that you're okay with if you're Brandon. You did very solid damage to Tyranitar, which was way more concerning to you than Kartana. Persian in the back is still a little bit annoying, but you can recover, make some plays. Kartana shouldn't be able to pick up any KOs here. You can essentially, depending on coverage move, but Marowak almost always have a move that would be able to hit Tyranitar for super effective damage, whether that be, you know, Bone Meringue, Low Kick, plenty of options there. So you have the offensive pressure still coming from the Marowak. Porygon 2 can either attack, potentially KO the Kartana if it's not Focus Sash, or too bulky. The HP number is pretty low, even for Kartana.
And so we have the Mega Tyranitar from Jackson's side of the field It is Mega Evolving. It does also have Sand Stream, but not going to be resetting anything because Sand is still up right now. As Marowak goes for the low kick into the Tyranitar slot, gets the knockout on her, so Jackson does lose his Tyranitar on this round. And Porygon 2 going for the recover, going to be getting back all that HP that it had lost previously. And this Kartana being the fastest on the field in Trick Room is going to be the slowest. Goes for another Sacred Sword into the Porygon 2 slot. Going to be chipping it down a little bit more. And both Pokemon on on Brandon's side once again taking chip damage from that Sandstorm.
I mean, good turn for Brandon once again.
Yeah.
The position for Marowak is really showing here. Persian can come out and use Fake Out and be generally annoying, and maybe take it. But Tapu Fini is way better than Persian. But what you're seeing now, Tapu Fini kind of remedies this situation a little bit. It can take Porygon 2 attacks. They haven't really ran Thunderbolt since 2017. It needs more moveset slots now, and Thunderbolt was always sort of hard to justify, and you have Marowak on your team, so you couldn't have used it anyway. But Tapu Fini has the potential to take hits from both Pokemon, retaliate, and if you dedicated a double tap, which wouldn't even KO, you'd lose Kartana. So Kartana's probably on the defensive here, but Tapu Fini's sitting pretty.
Yeah, and Tapu Fini also, not as useful on here for the Misty Train, but we do have that on the field, so any sort of status inflictions are not going to be coming out. So, if we've got any sort of Ice Beams or the Flare Blitzes from Marowak, no burns onto any of these Pokemon. And I think, just kind of switching into that instead of the Persian, like you said, it sits a lot more comfortably in front of these two Pokemon. But Tapu Fini actually switching out. So going to have the Persian back on the field on Jackson's side, kind of like a bait and switch, I'm guessing is what he's going for, as Marowak uses a Shadow Bone into the Kartana slot, gets it to a little bit, just a 39 HP, as Ice Beam from Porygon goes after this Kartana, double taps it, does get the knockout on here, so he does lose the Kartana this turn.
Jackson just going for the hard offense. The read did not pay off. We've seen a lot of reads that were very solid today, and that's what happens when they don't work out. That's a riskier play that didn't go in the player's favor. Persian did get out, but in the process, you lost Kartana for free. And it made sense that why he did that. Tapu Fini was in a position where it could really do whatever it wanted. It seemed like Kartana had to go on the back end. So as a almost counterintuitive response to that, you try to attack with your Kartana and make it so your Fini, who is potentially in danger of taking a ton of damage, is freed up from that. Bring in Persian, who probably can take both hits. I assume it has a berry. They generally do, though. They also have items like Darkinium Z.
Yeah. And then the Fake Out from Persian into the Porygon 2 as Marowak Flare Blitzes into, the Persian slot here. Going to be taking recoil damage, but is almost enough to pick up the knockout on here. But the Porygon 2 obviously flinching because of the Fake Out as Tapu Fini, Muddy Waters, connects with both Pokemon. One of those notorious moves that never usually does that. Picks up the knockout on Marowak, but not quite enough to knock out that Porygon 2.
The position for Jackson is looking very good here. Porygon 2 on the last little bits of its HP. The Trick Room just going away. Now Persian and Tapu Fini are looking very nice. Marowak going down and having Tapu Lele gone. It's Landorus in the back. The Landorus set, very important. You normally think that on Trick Room setups it wouldn't be Choice Scarf, but he has a Charizard, Tapu Lele Kartana mode as well. So, very possible, though I would assume something like Z-Move or Salt Vest just based on the sort of duality of the team. It really depends on how bulky and how accurate this Tapu Fini wants to be. Muddy Water can do a great bit of damage, and if it's not Scarf, you can hit the Landorus with a free Foul Play.
Ooh. Oh, yeah, so Foul Play from Persian going into the Porygon 2 slot, actually going to be picking up the knockout onto Porygon 2, so getting rid of that as Landorus Earthquakes. Connecting with, obviously, both Persian and Tapu Fini, and Persian going to be knocked out. Tapu Fini taking out a little bit comfortably, still still in the green on its health, and goes for another Muddy Water on here. Connects with the Landorus. It will be taking single target damage on this turn, and is almost, but not quite enough to get it into the red as the Sandstorm ends here.
This is pretty tricky because now we're in a situation where Earthquake gets the same properties as Muddy Water on the previous turn. Earthquake did about a little less than 50, but now with a single target, he might not be able to take that Earthquake.
Oh, and I think so. We'll see going to this turn. The Tapu Fini barely holds on to that single target Earthquake as the Muddy Water connects 3 turns in a row. What a record for Muddy Water at this point. Picks up the knockout on the Landorus. Game 1 going to Jackson.
That came down to the wire.
Woo!
Well played by both.
It's a little bit closer, I think,
in my mind, that Tapu Fini is almost absolutely choice specs, which also makes the Landorus Assault Vest. I'm not just pulling this out. Let me explain this for you. In that last turn situation, unless you just believe that Moonblast would not do enough, and he was pretty low, though you can argue that it would do enough, or wouldn't do enough to Assault Vest. Just the possibility of missing Muddy Water there is pretty scary, and it happens pretty frequently. So I think that is fairly telling of the items. I could be completely wrong on this. But, definitely a possibility. I think one of the most vital turns in that last game was the loss of Lele so early. Lele would have undersped Pokemon, even in Trick Room. And just that Moonblast Psychic pressure really did a number to just about everything that wasn't Tapu Fini. The game could have played out differently, but who knows. What I would really like to see from Jackson in particular, just better positioning with the Tyranitar a little bit. I don't think either player chose Pokemon incorrectly. It makes perfect sense to me not to bring Charizard and Kartana to this matchup and to play Trick Room. But I think Tyranitar has a lot to offer when you're playing Marowak, Lele. You just have to be a lot more of a presence against Porygon 2. I think for the most part, it ran pretty rampant, and I think that places a lot of responsibility on Tapu Fini.
Yeah, and I think also, too, for Jackson, maybe stopping Trick Room from getting up because, he did target down that Lander slot, and that helped him in the end against that Tapu Lele, but once you're in Trick Room, now you have to stall it out and figure out how you're going to survive all those turns. So Jackson actually locking in very fast, Brandon taking a little bit more time to just kind of figure out his Game 2 strategy here, because, he was in a pretty good position, and I think as soon as, that Trick Room had run out, that's where he kind of faltered. And just kind of showing that you want that Porygon there for that Trick Room setup, and it's got to stay, or else you don't know what you're going to do for it. So Persian and Tapu Fini actually leading on Jackson's side. We're going to get that Misty Terrain from the get-go here as Brandon leading with Charizard and Tapu Lele. All right.
Brandon just thinking that his other mode is going to work a little bit better, doesn't want to have to rely on the slow type of speed control here.
Yeah.
But, pretty annoying when you have Persian and a slower Tapu Fini removing that psychic terrain.
Yeah, and we've seen that Lele loves to have that boost on there, but just a little bit of an adjustment. I like the color synergy. I just noticed that. I was like, oh, that's very, very nice shades of purple together right there.
I mean, one thing that's great about Brandon's position and about the combination of Charizard and Lele in general is that Fairy and Fire are just naturally great together. They cover each other's weaknesses very well, hitting steals for one, hitting just about everything else because you're a Fairy with the other. We do see the Mega come out. The Sun will just boost, threatening Solar Beam on the Tapu Fini. And even the Tyranitar switching because the Sun activates after.
Yeah, and so like you said, that Mega Charizard Y coming into there, bringing it with the Sun as Persian uses Parting Shot into the Tapu Lele, going to lower its attack and special attack as it returns back to Jackson, and Jackson's going to be able to get a Pokemon out of here and onto the field. And it'll be that Tyranitar going to be rewriting that, that weather, and going to get the sand in place of that Sun. So any sort of Solar Beam is not going to be coming out here. There we go.
Oh, man.
Yikes. Charizard going for the Solar Beam, going to have to charge up on this turn, protecting his Tapu Fini, Jackson protecting his Tapu Fini for one turn. But the Dazzling Gleam from Tapu Lele going to be hitting into the Tyranitar spot and the Tapu Fini spot as Scald from Tapu Fini knocks out that Charizard.
Definitely choice specs. I mean, it didn't have a berry activation in the last game, and it didn't activate leftovers at any point. It wasn't a hard call, but that confirms it in a devastating way for Brandon. Being locked into Solar Beam was pretty unfortunate. It looks like he just didn't consider the possibility or just didn't believe that he would. Parting Shot. But Parting Shot was very safe against Charizard because it allows you to rewrite the weather that usually takes its place because the switch happens before the Mega Evolution, creating an excellent situation for Jackson, especially considering that Tapu Lele has minus attack stats.
And this Lander is going to be coming into place for that Fallen Charizard. Going to be intimidating both the Tyranitar and the Tapu Fini. As again, this Tapu Lele on Brandon's side of the field is going to be sitting at -1 for attack and special attack, and the Tyranitar and Tapu Fini both at -1 attack on Jackson's side of the field.
It's looking good for Jackson. Now that we have Tapu Lele starting to get worn out, probably needs to make a switch. Persian should be in a pretty good position for. And when it gets in, I would expect 2-ish turns. Landorus can try and weather this terrain a little bit. See what I did there? But with Choice Specs Feeney and knowing that Landorus doesn't have the potential to one-hit KO it, because I think he would have done it earlier because he was faster, so if he Z-moved, he would have just done it. Do you see Feeney switch out for that Kartana?
Yeah, and so Feeney not going to be locked into that Scald, as Kartana does hit the field in place of that, and we will be getting Mega Tyranitar from Jackson, again with its ability Sandstream, and the Sand already in play, no weather changes, and no extension of weathers. Tyranitar going for the Rock Slide, going to be hitting both Tapu Lele and Landorus on here. And we might be seeing some flinches on the other side. Oh, get the flinch on the Landorus. And Tapu Lele gets the Dazzling Gleam once more. Connects with both Tyranitar and Kartana. Does some considerable damage onto that Kartana. And does get the Sandstorm chip damage.
I guess I'm not super surprised by Tyranitar outspeeding Tapu Lele, considering that this team has a Trick Room mode, but that Rock Slide flinch is so devastating, especially since it allows Kartana, who I think is a pretty likely Z-move user in itself, a chance on the field for free. There's no Intimidate to come out and stop it from blasting Brandon's team. Tyranitar gets a free hit on Lele. Even if it switches out, that's free damage. It's looking very hard. He needs to make a move at a hard read, something now.
Yeah, and the Lele being switched out for the Porygon 2, getting the Porygon 2 getting special attack as Kartana goes for the Leaf Blade into the Landorus slot, does some good damage on there. Tyranitar once more going for the Rock Slide, is going to be connected with both Pokemon, picks up the knockout onto Landorus, and does minimal damage to that Porygon 2, but does knock out that Landorus.
I mean, also interesting to know the Tyranitar outsped Landorus.
Yeah.
Makes me consider that I might have missed something. I'm pretty sure I didn't. It just makes sense that these Pokemon could very well be slower.
Yeah, and so Lele coming in for that fallen Landorus does get the second terrain on here, but but Jackson still does have that ability to switch out the terrain, and because Brandon's on his last two Pokemon, if any terrain changes, will be final for Brandon's side at least.
This is a position, I think, that really highlights the strengths of Porygon 2 in this matchup. It's something that doesn't really care about Brandon's offensive pressure too much. It has tools to take the damage, and he has support for it. I would have liked to see it earlier, but, obviously that can't happen anymore.
Oh, man, yeah, so that two-turn prediction for the Persian is right on the money there. The person switching out for Tyranitar as Kartana Leaf Blades into Tapu Lele, gets the Beast Boost and the knockout onto that Tapu Lele as Porygon 2 uses Trick Room, being the lone Pokemon against all of Jackson's Pokemon right now.
Trick Room looks nice against this team, but at this point it's too little too late. I don't see how he's really going to be able to 1-4 this setup, especially with Tapu Fini in the back, and knowing that Marowak is on the team shouldn't be a Thunderbolt on it, possible Tri-Attack, but I don't think it's enough to really break through Tapu Fini at the least, especially considering you have 3 other Pokemon on the field. I think that Brandon just didn't really use enough of his helpful tools in the matchup, that really being Porygon 2, or just as putting much emphasis on it. Brandon, especially in the second game, was really just using his offense in a sort of unexpected way. He didn't really go for setups too much, and just bashed him in, really.
Yeah. Kartana switching out for the Tapu Fini as the Sandstorm ends and Persian fakes out the Porygon 2. We are still in Trick Room, but that Porygon 2 is now a couple turns, a turn wasted on that, not being able to move. Tapu Fini switching out once more. Going to be going for the Tyranitar, so we're going to get that stand again. Just going for that little bit of chip damage.
He's playing incredibly safe, and he has all the reason. He doesn't have a reason not to. It's basically a guaranteed win. You can't freeze with the Ice Beam because of the misty terrain. You can hope for crits here and there, but you will need a lot, and especially when you have parting shots just like that will lower you and just whittle you down.
And this Porygon will literally be a sitting floating duck on the field.
Oh, yeah.
So Persian parting shot into the Porygon 2, like you mentioned, and minusing that attack and that special attack as Tyranitar comes in. And Tapu Fini switching in for that parting shot Persian, and Porygon just taking that continual chip damage from Sandstorm.
I know it's a floating duck right now, but I really would have liked to see more of a running duck or a flying duck or something along those lines.
I think that
Duck. Yeah, breakneck Blitz duck. And just evolve into Porygon Z for me, please. Just knowing that, or at least I think Game 1 had him a little disencouraged. I think that Porygon 2 and the positioning that Porygon 2 offered in the first game was very good, and there was some unfortunate circumstances there which led that to eventually fall, albeit by a very narrow margin. I would have liked to see him stick to his guns a little bit more. I think that mentally it's very easy to go, oh, that didn't work. I'm switching to my other mode. Charizard will help me out here. And it didn't really work out. He had a lot of, he being Jackson, has a lot of tools to contain Charizard, primarily that Mega Tyranitar, but, you know, a lot of help from Persian and Tapu Fini. Not a mode that's as successful on paper as Porygon 2. But, you know, I don't want to take away from Jackson. He played to his outs. You know, removing that Tapu Fini was very good. Using his offensive pressure and containment in Game 2 just led to a very swift victory.
Yeah. So, I mean, good job for both these players. Still, you know, doing pretty well in this tournament. Jackson does win the round, and I think is now 6-0. Wait, this is round 6, so 6-0 right now.
Yes.
So we will see you guys for round 7, and hang tight. Don't go anywhere. Cool, cool, cool.